This week on Enemy Sidelines, presented by Microsoft Teams, we've got Titans team reporter Amie Wells joining us. It's the regular season finale for the Texans. The Titans hope it's not their regular season or 2020 finale. They hope to make the postseason. So, Amie, tell me, what's the attitude of this Titans team? They're facing a Texans team with a losing record, but a lot at stake for Sunday's game.
Absolutely. And the real thought process around the Tennessee Titans team right now is just win one game. Like, it really is that simple. You have to win one game. It kind of takes the pressure off. It takes the daunting postseason off. It makes it really easy if you think, okay, we need to win one game. That's all we have to do. And so the Titans are coming off of some frustrating games. The game against the Green Bay Packers did not go the way that anybody wanted it to go. And so I think that really just refocusing on the task at hand, which is winning a singular game, really brings everything into focus, brings everything down, and is really helping guys kind of focus in and be very specific about what they need to do this Sunday.
Yeah, you mentioned Sunday's game. We watched that Sunday night game. They could have locked up the division with the win against the Packers. Obviously, that didn't happen. Ryan Tannehill threw 2 interceptions, which is kind of uncharacteristic for him. How much was the weather a factor? How does he sort of bounce back from that performance as they come to face the Texans?
Yeah, I think the weather was definitely a factor. I mean, it's weather that, frankly, the Tennessee Titans don't see very often. We don't play a lot of really cold weather games, and that's not really weather that we experience in Nashville. We don't get that driving snow very often. And as a sideline reporter, I can tell you it was very cold and very snowy.
It looked very cold.
It was very cold and very snowy. However, there were also a lot of other factors that played into that. The offensive line did not play their best game, especially up against a Packers defensive front that is really, really strong. The Titans have seen a lot of turnover on their offensive line. They're on their 3rd left tackle right now, and they're pretty banged up as a unit. And so that's something that they had to overcome and really kind of experience some problems with on Sunday. Ryan Tannehill didn't have a great game. There were a lot of factors that kind of led into that. But I think that that's going to be something that typically we see him really kind of focus in and be very intentional about fixing some of the problems he encounters when he has a game like that. And I expect that this week it will be exactly the same way. He'll focus in on fixing some of the things, whether it's a communication issue, whether it's a protection issue, whether there's some sort of technique that he needs to fix. He'll find those problems and he'll correct them. He studies like a machine. He's great at leading this Titans offense, and Ryan Tannehill will get the trains back on track.
Well, if there's one player that we have to mention when we talk about the Tennessee Titans, it's Derrick Henry, which brings us to our next gen stat presented by AWS. Derrick Henry currently leads the league in rushing yards. He's got 1,777 rushing yards. Obviously, he's a huge part of that offense, as we saw in week 6 when he rushed for that touchdown in overtime against the Texans. It seems like no matter what defense is facing him, he has a big game. So is there an Achilles heel for Derrick Henry? Is there any way to stop him? Have you seen any weakness in his game?
I think the short answer is no, because Derrick Henry just kind of seems like this larger than life, almost like character, I mean, watching him play, it seems like as the game goes on, he just gets stronger and stronger. There have been teams that have been able to slow him down and have been able to prevent him from having just the dynamic games that we see where he puts up these crazy stats. But he's a guy that is consistent, and he is intentional with the way that he runs, and he's patient. He'll keep grinding and grinding and grinding until finally a defense will break, and then he is able to take advantage of that. And that's how we see some of those long runaway yardage runs that he's had. So, I mean, I want to say he's human, and of course there are things that he struggles with, but I don't really know what they are, because we've seen him be such a strong player this year and really just take advantage of defenses and find the holes in them. He's worked really hard on things like pass catching this year and being able to contribute in multiple ways in an offense. So yeah, he's human and there are ways to stop him, but I don't really know what they are.
She's not giving us any secrets, guys. All right. How about your wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Corey Davis? They're both having tremendous seasons as well, and they could both pass 1,000 yards receiving. They're really, really close. They could actually do it on Sunday. How do those two complement each other? How do they fit in that Titans offense? What makes them different from each other?
My gosh, it's been so much fun this year to watch those two be successful together, because they're actually like buddies. So they're really cheering for each other and are really excited to be potentially accomplishing this goal at the same time. They're definitely different receivers, as you mentioned before. AJ is definitely that deep threat who we've seen have some of the crazy showman catches, the one-handed, the jumping, the flying. I mean, AJ Brown really has a catch radius that is unbelievable. As far as Corey Davis, he's so consistent. He's a guy that's able to get a tremendous amount of yards after the catch, which is a great thing. But he's also been great in so many other facets of the offense. He's a great blocking receiver. You know, he's a guy that's not afraid to get in there and get physical and really be a teammate, you know, and make sure that the offense is running on all cylinders, no matter what the situation is. He's so cool. He's so calm and collected. The two of them together are just a great pair to have, because they're so much fun to watch. And you know that in any situation, one of those two guys can catch the football.
Well, that Titans defense will be without Jadeveon Clowney. We saw that he went on IR last month. They've seemed to really have struggled in their losses, the Titans defense, just collectively giving up about 40 points in their last two losses to the Packers and the Browns. Also, it's interesting that they're last in the league when it comes to sacks. They only have 15 sacks on the season. So surprising considering their record and how they've played so far this season. How much of a concern is that for the defense moving forward, especially with a head coach and Mike Vrabel, who is so known to want to coach up defenses the way he has?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that need to be fixed. And there's nobody who is more aware of that than Mike Vrabel. That's his specialty. That's his side of the ball. You know, being a former linebacker, he cares a lot about that. I think that a lot of the issues that the Tennessee Titans are having are due to injuries. I mean, just at outside linebacker alone, there's been so many changes this season. There's been so many injuries. Same in the secondary. Dory Jackson is back, but he missed the first 13 weeks of the season. So he's still just getting his feet under him. You know, he's playing with a guy like Desmond King, who was signed in the middle of the season. So a lot of the areas where you see chemistry being a big part, the Tennessee Titans don't necessarily have that, because there's so many new pieces, parts moving in and out all the time. So there's a lack of consistency on that side of the ball when it comes to personnel. And that leads to a lot of communication problems, I think. And that seems to be the overarching issue within the Titans defense, is communication, and just making sure that everybody knows where they need to be and what they need to do, and is communicating what they're seeing. And we see them work on that a lot in practice, and making sure that everybody's talking and everybody is utilizing the hand signals or whatever it is that they're doing to explain what it is that they're seeing to one another. And I think that that's something that maybe didn't happen as much in Green Bay. That communication fell off a little bit. So to be able to get that back for the Houston Texans is going to be really helpful for this Titans team.
All right, Amie, after that, the first matchup between these two teams in week 6, we saw Taylor Lewan went on IR and had season-ending knee surgery. And in his place, one of my favorite stories, David Quessenberry, he has stepped in at left tackle, got his first career start. I remember covering him when he was diagnosed with cancer in OTAs, and how he found out, and him ringing the bell when he was finally cancer-free. His family is still very much active in the Houston community. And I think a lot of people here in Houston have really cheered on his success and are genuinely very happy for him. What are your thoughts on Quessenberry and how he has fit into that role? He's had a lot of time to sort of prepare. He's a 2013 draft pick, so he's had a lot of years in the league, a lot of mental reps, I think he would call them. But, you know, what about his success so far this year, and how he's really fit into that O-line?
You know, he's really been a consistent player at that spot. And you're absolutely right. He's had such a journey, and I was fortunate enough to be able to talk to him after his first start against Indianapolis. And man, he was just very emotional. And it's something that was a long time coming for him to have be a starter just in general. And then to have the big games that he's played and the success that he's had at that spot. I mean, it's great. Ben Jones is a guy who was with him in Houston, kind of went through that journey with him. So for them to be able to be playing together on the same line has been great. That whole group of guys is so close, as I mean, a lot of offensive linemen are in around the league. Those rooms tend to be a little bit close, but they've all really rallied around Quessenberry, and they've really just taken him in and are so excited for him. And on top of it, he's playing well, so it's been such an exciting thing. But to see how emotional he was after that first start and really realize that he was accomplishing something that he had worked for and fought for years and years was a really cool thing for this team to be a part of, and to kind of rally around him and see. That was awesome. But I have to point out, you said that he rang the bell when he was cancer free. He destroyed that bell when he was cancer free. It's probably one of my favorite videos that has resurfaced in 2020 is him just ripping that ball right off, or the bell right off of the wall.
I do remember that. And we were just so happy for him because, he lost a lot of weight, then he gained a lot of weight. I just remember in the off season, we used to call it Quessenberry's Hill when he was rehabbing and working his way back. He was just up and down the same hill, right alongside Kirby, between Kirby and the practice field. So just really happy for him and his success. Just maybe just don't get a win on Sunday against the Texans. I mean, I don't think that's really asking for too much, but you know what, we'll see how it goes this Sunday. We saw the game. It's flexed to 325. So Amie, thank you so much for the time. Safe travels to Houston. It will not be cold. I promise you that.